Hi, this is Jay Sword here, coming to you with a movie review for Batman, The Killing Joke animated feature, based upon the 1988 Alan Moore graphic novel. Just to give warning, there will be some slight spoilers going forward with the story, nothing that will ruin it. However, if you do want to go into this completely clean, definitely go ahead and stop now and wait until after you've seen the film to hear my review. This film features two acts, the first one being an original act based around Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl. This serves two purposes. Firstly, it is to let the audience build a connection to the character, also to raise the stakes in forming a greater bond between her and Batman, which I'll get to in just a little bit. In addition to this, it also pads out the time of the movie. If we just went by what was in the comic itself, we would have about a 45-minute movie rather than a full feature-length film. So this 30 to 45-minute act really helps expand upon the original and give us a more full experience. The first act follows Batgirl and her interactions with new villain nicknamed Paris France. He is the nephew of a crime boss in Gotham and plans to overthrow him. Her ambition is to take him down and ends up biting her in the ass after Paris develops a crush on her. Barbara, wanting to prove herself to Batman, follows Paris and tries to apprehend him, leading her into quite a dangerous situation that really exposes a darker side that we haven't seen of Barbara in this movie, at least not yet. Then there is a part that a lot of people have drawn a lot of controversy to, and this is where we're going to get into a bit of a spoiler territory. There is an implied, well, not really implied, but a sex scene that happens between Batgirl and Batman. It's not shown on camera at all. It's just like a PG-13 movie where they begin to take their clothes off and the camera pans away. A lot of people are calling this gross. A lot of people are really angry because it doesn't fit the characters. I understand why they did it. They wanted to build that bond and raise the stakes between Batman and Batgirl, make it so that if something were to happen to her, he would care a lot more. But I feel that they really dropped the ball on this. During the sex scene, instead of anyone really feeling any kind of emotional attachment or really getting it, the entire theater laughed, which really shows that it just really didn't have the intended effect on the audience. I know myself, I didn't really get it. I don't think it's gross. I don't think it's out of place, really, because you have that mentor-student kind of relationship, that kind of sexual tension that builds. That happens all the time in reality. So it's completely normal for something like this to happen. No, it didn't happen in the comics. No, it's not exactly her character, but this isn't the comics. This isn't a main continuity. This is just a one-off film, and I just don't feel that it really warrants all the controversy and hubbub that a lot of people are bringing to it. Going forward, we move into Act 2, which is basically a scene-by-scene recreation of the comic, except it's going to be in the Batman the Animated Series style, rather than the more realistic kind of art style that the original Killing Joke comic had. And that makes sense because Bruce Timm, who is best known for Batman the Animated Series, is also a producer on this film. One thing I do want to mention that is different from the original comic in this film is that in the original Killing Joke, at the very end, it could be implied or inferred that Batman kills the Joker. In this story, however, at the very end, it is very clear that Batman, of course, does not kill the Joker, and in the comic continuity, it has since been retconned that the Killing Joke, while it did happen, he did not kill the Joker. Going back to the animation style, again, it is the Batman the Animated Series style from back in the 90s, but basically evolved to a more current style of animation. So there is a little bit of differences there, especially in how Batman looks in this versus how Batman looked in the animated series, but overall it has that very animated series vibe to it. Very great animation, a lot of good action scenes, good fight scenes between characters. But one thing I did want to point out that I noticed very early on, there is a car chase scene. And in this scene, they use a lot of CG for the cars rather than hand drawing everything. This works. However, the cars don't look that good. You can tell that they're CG, and they look really cheap. I really wish that if they were going to do something like this, at least employ a cell shading technique to make it blend more with the rest of the animation instead of really standing out like it did. It just really kind of made it just, again, look cheap and poor compared to everything else. Luckily, that part is rather short, and afterwards there's no real other CG that really stands out like that. So everything else, if it was CG, definitely blends in, but that initial car chase really just kind of soured me. And it's something that I personally look for in animated cartoons because I'm from that old school. I'm from the 90s where everything was still hand drawn and really well animated, of course, opinions aside. But that's the kind of animation I like. This new age of flash animation, CG, and so forth really doesn't resonate with me. So to see that really kind of turned me off on that scene in particular. But again, it really picks up. It really comes back with that Batman, the animated style of animation and art. And just overall, the art was really good. Really faithful to the comic, though not exact, because the comic does have a really realistic, really gritty, and it's sometimes exotic kind of coloring style, which wouldn't have really translated well over to a film. Reprising their roles for this film, we have the Batman, Kevin Conroy, the Joker, Mark Hamill, as well as Tara Strong as Batgirl and Ray Wise as Commissioner Gordon. Everyone doing an excellent job, but of course Mark Hamill as the Joker, the best Joker ever to be in an animated series, definitely steals the show here. One thing I do want to point out for Mark Hamill's performance is during this film we do see the origin story of the Joker. We see him before he becomes the Joker, and Mark Hamill does a really good job of humanizing the character before he makes that change. He does a really good job making the voice sound normal, but at the same time have that familiarity of the Joker, so you can definitely know where the voice comes from. I know that was definitely a difficult task to take that voice and just slightly modify it just so that it can sound just right. It sounds easy, but those slight modifications are just so difficult. So my hat's off to Mark Hamill for doing such an excellent job. Again, the entire voice acting cast really well. What you would expect. No disappointments here. Definitely grade A work all around. One thing I noticed when I saw this at the theater is that it was not rated. I understand that the actual release is supposed to be rated R, but I don't see a reason for that. As far as the violence is concerned, it's no more violent than more recent, more darker DC animated films, such as Under the Red Hood, Gods and Monsters, or Flashback. It may be because of the implied sex, or some of the more lewd images shown when the Joker is showing the pictures he took of Barbara, even though there's no nudity shown there. Commissioner Gordon is naked at some parts, but he's completely covered where it matters, and actually covered really cleverly, by the way. So if this gets an R rating, I just don't get it unless they were just trying to push for that R rating just to garner an audience. But really, this should be no more than a PG-13 film. Overall, I really enjoyed this film, a really good adaptation of The Killing Joke, with the extra act at the beginning to build Barbara as a character. That being said, I felt like it ran a bit short. It's only an hour and 16 minutes long, and at the end I just kind of felt like that was it. There is a scene after the credits that shows Oracle, but it's just a brief scene, doesn't really add anything to it. I just felt like there should have been a little bit more, a little bit extra added on to it at the beginning, or maybe to the end. I'm not sure. Nothing that would change the actual story that it's derived from, but I just wanted a little more out of what we got. To give a numeric rating, I'm going to say 4 out of 5 for this one. I really enjoyed it, but the film is not without its flaws, such as the CG near the beginning that I mentioned with the car chase, and I'm going to go ahead and dock the score for the sex scene. it didn't really have the impact that it wanted to. It just did not accomplish the goal that it set out to accomplish, and a lot of people are really put off by it. Not myself, but I can understand why from a comic fan's perspective. Overall, however, just a great film, and I definitely encourage you to see it, either if you can in the theater for its limited release, or pick it up on Blu-ray or DVD. Definitely check it out. This has been Jay Sword with the movie review for The Killing Joke. I hope you enjoyed. If you do, please rate the video. If you have any disagreements or like what I did, comment on the video. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and have a great day.